Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Art of Resilience. My name is Mitchell Lingard. This is episode 4, coming at you live on Facebook. Tonight's topic is I'm an addict. Now, what is an addiction? How do you look at an addiction? What are the things that are around an addiction? There's so much of it currently in our day-to-day. Everyone you know has some form of addiction. I've got several myself. I've battled with many over the years that I've been alive. Let's talk about that. Wayne, would you like to touch firstly on what your views are on an addiction?
Sure, Mitch. There's a lot of different ways of explaining it, but probably the simplest is addiction. Addiction is an inability to deal with stress and for self-regulation, self-control. It's someone's trying to kill the pain with whatever drugs. And I'll preface this because a lot of people point their finger at other people and call them drug addicts. If you drink coffee every day, you're a drug addict. Caffeine is one of the biggest abused drugs on the planet. So people point the finger and go, oh, look, they use meth, they use ice, they use alcohol. Sorry, guys, if you're doing coffee, you're an addict as well. It's that addiction to something that make you feel something or cover up for something you don't want to feel. I'll throw it over to you guys.
Yeah, guys, I've got to come clean, really. I drink coffee every day, so I think I'm a bit of an addict with that when it comes to coffee. But like you said, Mitch, it's everyday life. It's everyday things that we're doing. I was listening to a podcast from Dr. Demartini, and he had some good points saying about just even online shopping and how if you don't feel value within your job, you go out there and you're going to spend money and make yourself feel good. Comes down to the online shopping as well. That's just, sometimes I feel like I've even got a bad habit. Sometimes you'll just keep going and then you buy this, buy that, the little things. So it comes from everything. Yeah,
absolutely. They say that Socrates said this. He said that if you want to see a man, show me a boy at 7 and I'll show you a man at 21. So let's sort of open that up a little bit. So if Socrates way back when was saying, you show me a boy at 7 years old and I'll show you a man at 21. Well, that has everything to do with your programming. So your programming is done from that 0 to 7. Yeah. So from 0 years of age to 7 years of age, that's when you develop all your programming, all your patterns, all of your habits. That's where you're most absorbing all the information from your peers or your parents or whoever is your guardian. Yeah.
Mitch, I'll take that a step further. You can take it back to conception, because a lot of patterns are born from if mum or dad had a drug problem. And I'm not saying it's genetic, because there's no proof of genetics. We need to look at epigenetics instead. But if mum was constantly stressed, in fact, the sex of a child can be changed at 6 weeks in the womb if the mum's under extreme stress. So a lot of the patterns can also be from from conception to birth. That's something that people don't look at.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point that you're putting there, Wayne. I remember back when I was in the family court arena, obviously, going for custody of my son, etc. His mother was pregnant with a child at the time, and this is talking on an energetic level because we're just going to go straight into the deep stuff. You know how we roll. Well, that child then, she said to me, the mother said to me, we've made quite good friends since, and she said she's very terrified of you, and I'm not too sure why. And I thought about it, being the spiritual guru that I am. I thought to myself, well, that's because in the family court arena, all around that time when you seen me on an energetic level, she felt from within the womb that when you were in my presence, there was some sort of fear or there was some sort of whatever you want to put it. Does that make sense? So then when
Absolutely.
So then now, like, as she's like currently walking around as a young child, 2, 3 years old, she can feel that presence that I had. And that's, again, like you're saying, from the womb.
Yeah. It's a factor we don't, is that coming across all right?
Yeah, that's coming across fine. Yeah.
That's a factor we don't take in. Sometimes it's not actually our stuff. Like you're saying about your addictions, mine was Coca-Cola for a lot of years. Because when I was at school, I went and worked in a Coke factory, and you got to drink free Coke. So Coca-Cola, and I know chocolate is
Very
always my
addictive,
comfort
Wayne.
food.
Very, very addictive. I mean, I too
Absolutely.
had a soft drink addiction, and it was with every meal that I wanted to have that, that drink, and then that fizzy bubbly feeling, everyone knows what I'm talking about. But, just while we're on the topic of that, how do you overcome an addiction to soft drink? I started drinking sparkling water. So that then was the replacement, a healthy substitute for soft drink, yeah?
Yeah. I overcame mine with using kinesiology. I was very lucky. My former partner was probably one of the best kinesiologists around. So with a lot of help from her, I was able to clear the emotional stuff and the attitude that was behind it. And then just one day I went, enough, and had to stop. And recently I've been doing intermittent fasting where I only eat for an hour a day, and went from 14.5 stone to 13.5. What's that, about 90 to 80 kilos or something. But I had to do it because I could see my body was being affected by too much processed foods and too many sugars. And being addicted to Coke, in a lot of ways, is no different to being addicted to alcohol, because they're both high sugar. High sugar creates a high acid, which messes up the brain, messes up the body, and you just your body gets used to being in an acidic state. And acidic is toxic, and your body's breaking down. You don't even realize it.
Yeah, so like acidic being the opposite to then alkaline. So that's like disease-free, where antioxidants are living. And then obviously on the flip side of that, like you're talking about, being in an acidic body state is when that free radicals can survive, and that's where disease and all sorts of nasty things can spruik up and take control of cancer, etc.
Yeah. And we all talk a lot about willingness, but willingness is huge. Like my dad was an alcoholic, so I've seen it. I've been inside the mental institutions, and I've been there when he's seen 6-foot pink caterpillars crawling up the wall. I was a bit disappointed because I couldn't see it, but now he could.
Yeah.
Now he was a nice bloke, but he just couldn't cope. And in fact, the more I look into it now that he's dead, he was actually a very gentle man, but he just couldn't cope. And whatever happened in his childhood, and there was something back there in his childhood, that he just turned to alcohol to kill the pain. And that eventually destroyed the family. Because he couldn't cope, he wouldn't face up. I'll give my mum credit, she tried everything to help him out, but he just didn't get there.
Yeah.
So I think we've all had experience with some sort of addiction. The big one for a lot of men is sexual addiction. And when you strip it back, when you take it right back to its core, it's just a need to be loved. We just go, we blokes go about it, and we get it all screwed up and messed up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for people, like, alcohol would be like a really widely accepted sort of a thing, it's sort of like take, for example, if, you work in construction, which I did for 10 years, and like it was concreting and doing, really heavy stuff, you saw at the end of the day, you weren't too excited about going to the gym unless you really, had a good habit of doing that. But at the end of the day, like I can remember, concreting, steel fixing, formwork, all that, mate, we'd be tonguing a beer at the end of the day. We just literally would be tonguing a beer. It'd be the first thing on your mind that you wanted to have when you finish work, and it was sort of like an habitual thing. And it was like, and it is currently still accepted as the complete norm, have a couple of beers on the way home from work, maybe make sure you don't get pulled over while you're driving with your stubby sort of thing, and then you get home and have a shower and a bit of dinner and maybe 1 or 2 more cold beers or whatever, watch a bit of the Idiot Box. And then, off to bed, do the same thing and repeat the cycle over and over. Wanting the week to go faster, and the speed up for the weekend because old mate's having a barbecue at his house and we can drink 2 cartons of piss. There's so many of us Aussies that are in that sort of a thing, and I was one of them. We'd have stubbies or tinnies on the way home every sort of day. What do you think, Ash? You've been in concrete in there for a while too, and sort of like the culture and the norm, isn't it? Like getting on the piss and that kind of thing. A few ciggies.
Yeah, mate. Getting drinking when you're a concreter it's a must. And I've probably been on site with tons of blokes and tried to drink my hardest, tried to show the boys that I can drink beer, and it still just didn't hold for me. So I'm pretty grateful for that. But like you said, Mitch, concreting and drinking, it goes hand in hand. But same time, concreting and drug abuse goes together as well. And you're getting paid good money. So let's have whatever they have and let's have a drink. You know what I mean? So it does gel together. Just what Wayne was saying though, with the sex addiction, right? It just hit me. That sex addiction is really good, but that can link back to our last conversation on Big Boys Don't Cry, right?
Episode 3, yeah.
It's an emotional thing. It goes to emotional thing. So if we can't be there and talk about our emotions and we can't do that, like Wayne says, we go into sex, which is how we really
regulate
use our emotions and regulate our emotions. So that can become addiction itself. And like Wayne says, it's one of the biggest ones out there for males at the moment. You know what I mean?
Well, look at porn. I was on a work site one day and the guys were joking about there was a discount on Pornhub. It took me a little bit of time to work out what he was actually talking about, but then I got it. And that was just common sense. Actually, I'll go back to another thing. Is when I was in the Electricity Commission last millennium, I never fitted in. And it took me a long time to work it out that I didn't go to the pub with the boys and I didn't drink. So no matter what I did, no matter how hard I worked, I was never one of the boys. And when I tried, it didn't work anyway because I can't drink. Just alcohol doesn't work for me. Mine was Coca-Cola or chocolate or something else, or in my earlier days, sex.
Yeah, so it's like back with like the guys that are regulating through sexual behavior, touching on pornography. I mean, there was a period there where like I reckon I would have masturbated every single night to porn to go to sleep for 2 years. I think it was sort of like my habit. I'd watch a bit of porn, I'd masturbate, and then I'd go to sleep. And I thought, oh, that's the normal. That's what you do. But it's not fucking normal. It really isn't, And what it did was it desensitized me to the reality of what sexual intercourse should be like. And it also gave me a very superficial expectation of women. So I wanted them to perform like these porn stars. That's the kind of like basic thing that I thought was the norm. You need to do these crazy moves, and if she's not screaming, I'm not doing it right, and all of this kind of thing. It's fucking dead. It's the God honest truth, and it's fucking bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. And we're so now the younger people, we're so desensitized now. Like there's these high expectations within the bedroom. Choking and all this sort of stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, like if that's what you're into, that's what will happen. But my point is pornography is desensitizing people, and it's disconnecting them from one another and what true intimacy should be like. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that surprised me was I was talking to a girl one day and she watched porn, and because she would do all the stuff for a guy because that's what she thought they wanted. So it's not just guys, it's women as well. It gets in there, messes things up. And the thing about porn is, it's got its place if you're with a partner, but what it confuses is sexuality, which is a very masculine energy and very selfish energy, and sensuality. which is a more, caring about your partner, considering their needs, considering your own. It's a different energy, and it's made us. It's messed up society. You look at the film industry. If you took sex and cigarettes out of it, there wouldn't be much to watch. Because all the subtle stuff, and they're sexualizing little kids, 3, 4, 5-year-olds, especially in the US where they have these beauty pageants for little kids. That's sexualizing kids.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, there's a lot of that sort of, people, we could get into that conversation, but then people would say, oh, you're a conspiracist, It's only because they're looking at Channel 7 or Channel 9, or they're looking at the newspaper, and that's where they're getting their gospel information from, which is completely controlled by whoever's controlling it. I mean, that's another conversation in itself, which I'm sure we'll get to at some stage, but the fact of the matter is that pornography has desensitized me. It's desensitized a lot of people that I know within my community and people that I grew up with. And I mean, a way around that would be try your best to stop watching it, That's what I kind of did. I just stopped watching it. And I did have withdrawals from it, it's quite a severe thing. And I'm really comfortable about talking about this stuff because I know that those that listen in are really going to take something from it because it's raw. And people get on social media and they talk shit and they try and pretend that they're something that they're not. And that's not what we're here to do. We're here to empower people, And, so if you've got a porn addiction, I highly recommend that you stop watching. If it's hardcore porn, go to soft porn, just sort of lighten it up a bit. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think we've had a discussion about that. It's true, lighten it up. But also go and look at stuff on relationships. And there's some great books out there. One that you and I have talked about is The Way of Superior Male. He actually talks about, and
The 5 love languages.
And the love languages. And
very good read.
Yeah, John Gray's Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Men and women are different. And
there is education out there.
We're probably moving away. Let's come back to addiction and that need for the unhappiness killer, because that's what most of the drugs and stuff are. They're trying, we were saying earlier, people basically have got jobs they hate. They travel 2 or 3 hours in the morning into work and then home again in the afternoon. They're not doing what they like. They've got no clearly defined goals, no real ambition. What's most people's ambition? Make it through to Friday so they can get pissed Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so they've got enough painkiller in to get them through the week. I see it locally. I go for a walk and there's people boozing up I'm looking going, you're surrounded by this absolute beauty and you can't do it without beer in your hand. Sorry, Ash.
No, you're right, mate. You're right. But that's exactly right. You're hitting the nail on the head with that one. They don't have a goal. They don't have daily goals. They don't have something to look forward to. What they look forward to is at the end of the day, they've either got a beer in their hand or a substance in their hand or something like that. You have a burning desire or you get a hobby that you aim for, and that really helps you put your mind out of it, I guess. I guess when I was taking drugs, I think it was the circle that I was really hanging around. The circle that I was associating myself with, that's all we knew. And it was almost like a social thing that we would do it. So it was almost like a social drug, and we'd all get on it or whatever we did. And you think that you got your true mates in there getting on all these types of drugs, but realistically, it's a bunch of just bullshit, really.
Yeah, your environment has everything to do with, what you're doing. It's like, the old saying, if you want to be a millionaire, hang around 4 millionaires and you'll be the 5th. If you want to be a martial artist, boxer, whatever it might be within martial arts, you hang around martial artists. Or if you want to be an ice addict and 4 of your mates are ice addict, guess what? Pop quiz. Doesn't take it to work it out. You will be an addict because that's what you're surrounded with. Yeah. But again, people that are alcoholics, because I honestly have broken the generational cycle of alcoholism within my family. So my son doesn't have to do it because I was an alcoholic and now I'm not. it all comes back to regulating stress and dealing with your trauma that's happened within your life. So that people have had traumatic events that have happened to them. They've been sexually abused. They've been beaten up. They've watched mum get beaten up. They've watched dad beat mum up. They've had things like this happen in their life. They've watched their brother or their sister get killed, and it scarred them so deeply, they don't know how to regulate their emotion. And guess what? My cousin, he's a little bit older. He's smoking weed. Oh, have a cone, young fella. You know, you're 12, 13, whatever it is. I started smoking pot at 9. That was like Ash said, the group of people that I was hanging around. They were 4 or 5 years older than me, and they're all smoking weed. So what did I do? I started smoking pot because I had my own little traumas that I hadn't dealt with. So that's exactly what you're saying with your environment. Whatever you're hanging around, you're going to become a product of that. But with self-regulation, if you're sad, if you're hurting, and your peer group around you are taking drugs or on the piss, you actually feel good when you're high. There's no doubt about that. That's why it's called a high. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
So drugs make you feel good. There's no doubt about that. Alcohol, it makes you feel good.
But only for a while.
Yeah, for a while.
Then you've got to take more and more and more painkillers.
100%, mate. Mate, you're preaching to the choir because I'm a reformed addict. I'm an alcoholic. I'm all those things. Used to smoke cigarettes the whole lot. So I know exactly what you're saying, Wayne. But it all comes down to that not being able to deal with your stress. And if your peers around you are abusing drugs and alcohol, you're going to do that too. So what would be a solution for someone that's surrounded by this? What are your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. What we're saying earlier about changing your environment, sometimes it's hard to change like where you live and the environment and the neighborhood you live in. Sometimes it's hard to get different people around you. But there's these amazing things called books and videos. You can go and read about all the great people who have overcome things, Mandela, Mother Teresa. You can read about the great leaders and the opportunities. All the great stuff like Napoleon Hill, Wallace Wallace, Florence Scovel-Shinn, Anthony Robbins, John DeMartini, what's the other guy? Oh, the guy does all the brain work. There are so many people out there.
Joe Dispenza.
Joe Dispenza, yeah, Joe does some brilliant stuff. You fill your mind with amazing stuff. I remember I was in a new agey shop one day with a girl I was with, and she was off buying stuff, and I'm just standing there. I got talking to this guy who was a truckie that worked on coal and mines out west, and he taught himself quantum physics. So he didn't go to the pub with the boys. He actually used to sit and read about quantum physics. He was fascinating to talk to. And he wouldn't have fitted in, but he was comfortable with himself. And that's what we've got to look at, I guess, is they're the solutions, is what's it going to take for you to get comfortable with you? And yeah, we've all done it our own ways. Mine was using kinesiology and just going, I got to do enough of this. And then recently fasting, because I realized that I'd started doing some research on insulin, and insulin can have an impact with addictions as well. So my diet was wrong and my body started craving stuff. So I had to break the cravings. But I also had the mental resilience to be able to go 6 days without eating.
Just touch on there with your insulin levels and stuff. Like as a Western culture, we're highly almost dependent on carbohydrate intake. If you look at carbohydrates as sort of like the kindling that you put on a fire, it burns up very, very quickly and then it's gone. It's not like protein or fats where they're sort of more like the bigger logs that you put on a fire that last longer. So when if you're a child or you eat, say, porridge or bread in the morning, that gets consumed very, very quickly. And just remember that carbohydrates, the molecule is glucose, which is sugar. So if you're eating lots of carbohydrates, you're actually eating large amounts of sugar. So that's going to throw your blood sugar levels way out of whack. And your hormones are directly connected to that. So if you've got problems with hormones and your energy levels and you're not feeling quite right, you got to have a really good look at your diet and what you're eating, yeah?
Yeah, and we have to be careful with proteins, because I was actually doing some research today. It's not protein we need to eat. It's the 8 amino acids, so the body will produce its own proteins. So, you can take meats and stuff which you think are good, but they're not giving you all the amino acids. But yeah, the big thing with insulin is that actually, if it's up in the body, cortisol can also be up, which is a stress hormone. So anyone that's been, and the more research I do, the more I find that insulin's got to do with childhood abuse, which is, there's your link straight back to addictions. So it's breaking that cycle. It's, you know, it's doing the core stuff: water, pH, oxygen, gratitude. And how many people I've met a few people who are drinking. I saw my dad, and he wasn't appreciative of what he had. You know? My mum would move heaven and earth. Okay, she can be a hard woman in her own, you know, but what she's gone through, it makes sense. But she stood by him through all he went through, and he never appreciated it. So how much of addiction's also got to do with lack of appreciation?
Yeah, that's huge. That's
Yeah.
massive. That comment right there, I believe, that's where it's at, Wayne. Because if you have that self-belief, if you have that self-appreciation, you don't have goals, all this sort of stuff. It's like, no, it's all right. It's all right. You know, no, it's okay. You find a lot of peer pressure in that as well when you're hitting those sort of other drugs as well. But like Mitch says, what would you do if you found yourself in that situation? But like you said, Wayne, you're reading books. But we go back to last week's episode as well. What food are you eating? What water are you drinking? How much sleep are you getting? You know, who you're hanging around? All right. What goals? What desires do you have? What are you doing to better yourself? Like we say in between us, what would the master do when we're faced with something along those lines? That's a good point you make there, Wayne. Definitely.
Yeah, I really think that for people that have an addiction or a drug addiction, the first thing you need to do is, well, for me, it was hit rock bottom. For me, it was I was going to take my own life. So I got to that point and thought, fuck, am I going to follow through with this or not? You know, and I had to make a strong decision, and that was to be a powerful, positive male role model for my son. So I anchored onto something. So there's your goal. So if you've got an addiction, get a goal.
Yeah.
I had a burning desire to be a positive male role model for my son. So for you, you have to get something that you really, really want to achieve. It's the most important thing. You know, whatever that is, you need to go after it with relentless pursuit. Okay. And in the process of doing that, for me, I had to cut off all the people that I was hanging around, and all of them were taking drugs. And when I had drugs, I had 1 million friends. Okay. And they're not real. It's fake. They only want what you've got at that time. So get a burning desire, cut off all the people around you that are taking drugs, that are using drugs, that are selling drugs. You need to get rid of all those people around you. Okay. Wipe them clean. And that means that you're going to be alone. And being alone is scary. It's a scary place to be, because you slip back into the feeling of normality. When you step out of your comfort zone, okay, it's called dizziness. Bloke said it today on a call. It was like when you step away from your normal and you're learning something new, or you're doing something new, it's so bloody uncomfortable, and you don't know if you're progressing or not. Yeah. So
That's true.
So when you step away from that place, you're going to feel really, really uncomfortable. But you've got to then look back at why you're doing it. Why am I doing this? Because I don't want to be an addict anymore. Yeah. So you've got to have a really strong why as to why you're doing it, because there's going to be days where you don't feel like getting up. There's going to be days where you don't feel like showing up. But if your why is like, I need to do this for this reason, which for me, it was my son and be a father. That was my why. That was my fuel that drove me forward.
There's one thing too with addictions that we sometimes don't look at, and that's also food. And we can be addicted to anything that we have to have repeatedly to make us feel better. Can be addiction. Well, we talk about the drugs, we talk about the alcohol, but we don't always talk about food. And people can be addicted to being healthy, but they end up being unhealthy because they've got an unnatural mental, emotional approach to it. So it's a lot broader than we think. It's like you're saying, the big one for me is willingness. Are you willing to change? Are you willing to learn? Now, you said you hit rock bottom. Your rock bottom would have been, this is not working. When I wrote Kissing the Black Dog, I got talking to a lot of guys who were depressed and, you know, going through addictions and stuff. And every person, male, female, even young people, to a person said the same thing in different words. I knew I had to change, which in my language is, okay, I need to get willing to change. I need to do something because this is not who I am. And some of them were, they were a mess, but they managed to turn their lives around. So there's people out there every day that's doing it. So also, who do you listen to? You go and listen to someone. If you want to deal with addictions, you go and deal with someone or listen to someone who's done it. AA and all those things have their place, but at some point you've got to do it yourself.
Wayne, that's perfect that you've just touched on that, because one thing that really rifles my feathers and gets me mad is that people, they want to change and they're willing. They get this willingness and they say they're feeling depressed. They go to their local GP. They say, I'm feeling like this. I felt suicidal the other day. Oh, this happened. My missus left me. I drink beer every day of the week. The doctor prescribes them anti-fucking-depressants. And it makes me pissed off because he just gives them another addiction. He's trying to rescue them with pharmaceutical pills or whatever it is. They're trying to rescue them with another addiction from the addiction they're currently in. And that's creating.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying there. But by the same token, those people would get really angry with the doctors if they didn't give them because they want painkillers. They want an emotional, mental painkiller.
Get a quick fix.
Yeah, it's like, I think it wasn't Oscar Wilde, it was George Bernard Shaw made this wonderful quote, 2% of the population think, 3% of the population think they think, and 95% of the population would rather die than think. So we can criticize the medical system, and I'm as good as you. Like I've had stand-up arguments with registrars. But the bottom line is they're servicing the people that don't want to change. Now, until we get rid of the 95% starts to shift, the doctors, they don't have a choice. If they stop giving antidepressants, they'll go to someone else, or they'll go and get them on the street. People want to kill the pain instead of embrace the pain.
Wayne, can I just say 1 second? That was some good numbers, and that's actually pretty crazy that you say that, but it does make sense. But how would we get those 95% of those people to change? What would you do? What would you recommend? How would we get that? Because that's out of 100 people, that's 95 people. That's pretty alarming. What would you do to get them to start thinking? Or if they don't want to think, what would you do?
Mate, it's what all three of us do. We just talk to people and just give them options and see. And I think all three of us are pretty good at picking when people are unwilling to change. I've started giving people advice and I've heard it and I've just gone, they're not going to listen. So I'll give them a little bit and see what they do with it. Because if this is a really hard part, is as humans, we have free will. Now, if a person want to mess their life up, that is their free will. And we've got to be careful not to violate them by trying to get them to do what we think's right. It's a messy one and a hard one, but obviously I'd be recommending Kissing the Black Dog, my book on depression and anxiety. Drink water, drink the water, get your pH right, get your oxygen right, and get back into gratitude. Get those four and get help.
Gratitude, Wayne. What is gratitude?
Gratitude, it's a form of love. It's a form of appreciation. Gratitude is going, you know what? Life might suck, but I'm pretty damn glad I'm here. It's looking for the good in every situation. And I'll give you an example. I got chewed out yesterday pretty badly. And I didn't realize the stress it caused me. Went down the beach to do my video this morning, walked off and left my camera bag there with my mics and my wallet in there. Went back later, gone. So don't get me wrong, I was prepared to start getting shitty. Then I just went, okay, I'm going to turn this around. So I was appreciative of it getting lost because there's a new mic I actually want to buy anyway. Now it's forcing me to do it. It's made me realize that I was so stuck in my head. I was so out of my body, I was off in fairyland and I wasn't present. So I really had to, okay, it's going to cost me a few $100 to get things replaced. But it taught me to come back and be grateful, be appreciative, focus in the now. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. And I think Ash has got something good to put with this one. Like when shit situations may occur, for example, Ash will finish my sentence for me, I think.
When should sorry, what were you going to say, Mitch?
So like say for example, I got a flat tire.
Oh, I love this one.
Just out of nowhere, I was cruising along, I'm on my way to work, and I get a flat tire.
Yeah, mate. What's the first thing you do? You punching the steer, not punching the steering wheel. You're going off. Everything's. You're running late to work. You just spilt your coffee on your lap, and the next thing you've got this flat tire. You get out. You start just goes worse. It goes worse. But that's the thing. We touched on those CDs that we listened to, all three of us last week, and they touch on this flat tire situation. When was the last time you had the flat tire? When was the last time you changed one? Do you even know how to change one anymore? It's been that long. With all the mechanics and the tire fitting and all that stuff these days, it's pretty rare to get a flat tire. But it's a new experience, and that's the thing. When was the last time you did one? You know what I mean? Who are you going to run into at even changing the tire or at the tire shop when you get a new one? You just don't know. So, and what I find also, once you start having a bad day and something else happens and something else happens and something else happens, things just start snowballing. And next thing, you're getting upset at this and that, and you're getting upset at things that aren't in your control. So you just got to take that step back and be appreciative of even the flat tire that you might have.
Yeah.
No, I can build on that because I had to go and get a new license. So I got chatting, had this lovely conversation down at the transport department. I had to ring a company and say, hey guys, I've lost some certificates. Can you send them through? And a couple of people went through and, oh mate, sorry to hear that. Hope you're okay. You know, actually people, I got appreciation. I've got some recognition and connection with people I probably wouldn't normally talk with because I'm too busy being busy. So yeah, it's total change of attitude. And that's the same with alcohol. There is no drug on this planet, and you two know it, and I know it, that you cannot get rid of. And some people do it cold turkey. Some people just go, I'm done, I'm out. Others can't. They need to detox. They need to take time. They need to change their diet. You know, every person's different. The more strong-willed you are, you've probably got more chance. If you find it a little bit hard, you know, change your diet. And that's emotional, mental, and spiritual diet. You know, go and find out where the Achilles heel is, what it actually is that you're most afraid of, and deal with that. Mitch?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything you guys are saying there. And just to touch on the tire thing, you know, it's like if you get about your flat tire, you just got to think, fuck, who am I going to meet? Who am I going to run into? If you haven't got a girlfriend, you might meet your partner. You know, the universe is working for you, not against you. And when shit happens, you got to keep that in your mind. Like, oh, okay, cool. This is actually happening for the right reason. Like, I'm a strong believer in, like, you know, say I drove up the road and I forgot something that I had to take to a meeting or wherever I was going, and then I had to turn around and I might be late, but it may have prevented me from being in a fatal accident or running over someone or something like that. So that's how I kind of look at those kinds of things, and that comes back to gratitude as well, because the universe is constantly looking out for you. Call it God, Christ, whatever you want. It doesn't matter. They're all labels, but the universe has your back. So just want to touch on like habits. So habits are like what forms addiction. So if you've got good habits, then you're going to have good addictions. Or if you've got bad habits, you're going to have some bloody bad addictions. Yeah, would you agree?
Absolutely.
So
there's another point there too, and that is loneliness. And loneliness, a lot of times, I say spiritual, I'm not quite sure what spiritual means. I think it's more like a belief in something greater than ourselves, and more of a belief in the greater good. And a lot of people that have got addictions are focused on their problems, and it actually becomes quite self-centered and selfish, not intentionally. I don't think they set out to do it. They get so focused on how bad their problem is, they think theirs is bigger and better than anybody else's. And they build this bubble around themselves where they actually become lonely.
And they create that story. That big,
And I've seen it with spiritual loneliness, where people just don't feel like they fit in. You know, I've seen it with quite a few people lately. I watch a lot of the conversations about this current situation we're in, and a lot of people are being ostracized because they have different beliefs.
Mm.
So, and that sometimes people, a lot of people with addictions are actually really nice people, really gentle, really kind people who just can't handle the warlike mentality of humanity. So they find something, just it's like a big blanket they can pull over themselves so they feel safe and they feel protected. But eventually it destroys them.
Mm. 100%. It's, you know, we're constantly in the process of self-destruction if we're not dealing with our emotions. And then, you know, we can be abusing ourselves with all sorts of substances, alcohol, cocaine, ice, whatever it is. You know, we can be destroying ourselves because we're not regulating our emotions. And that's why people are taking these drugs, because they want that that release of chemicals. You know, it releases chemicals in your brain and into your bloodstream and makes you feel amazing. That's why people are doing it, because it's masking their current situation, their pain. You know, their internal world is different to their external world, and that they can't sit in that, and that hurts them. But you know, through the power of your own breath, I've delved deep into various styles of breath work, done 0-degree ice baths and stuff. If you control your breath, you're going to control your life and everything that's in it. Now, when you do different styles of breathing, even tapping on your third eye, these kinds of things are going to release those chemicals the exact same that any kind of drug will do. And you can do that through the power of your breathing, if you're willing again.
Do you know that cheese triggers the same chemicals in the body as opioids, heroin? So cheese can be addictive.
Oh,
Yeah.
at one point there, I was addicted to cheese, and
Yeah.
I was addicted to milkshakes and thick shakes at one point, and I was lactose intolerant. And believe you me, I didn't make it to the toilet a number of occasions. And then I kind of realised that, shit, I don't actually have to shit myself. I can just pull my pants down and shit wherever I am. That would be a lot cleaner.
Mitch, I'd like to put a question to you, mate.
Please do, Ash.
How moving meditation has saved your life, where you would be without your karate, where do you think you'd be right now without your karate, where are you now with your karate, and just how moving meditation and what it does for you. You know what I mean? Say if someone was addicted now, what would be their what would be your advice? So there's a couple of questions there for you.
Yep. So if someone's addicted, what would be my advice to them right now? I'll start with that. My advice to you, if you are addicted to anything, is to have a look at what you want. Again, what do you want in life? Who are you looking up to? Who's your best mate? And who are you inspiring? Also, get clear on those three things. Who do you look up to? Who's standing next to you? And who are you inspiring? If you're not happy with that, that needs to change it immediately. As for moving meditation, when I first began my martial arts journey in karate, Anderson Bushikai, I was smoking ice in the car park before I actually went in to train. I'd been awake for about 2 or 3 days at the time, and I told the instructor that I would be there. And I'm a man of my word, and I said I'll be there. And I did everything that in my power to be there. I had to smoke some ice in the car park just so I had the energy to perform or even to show up. I completely fell in love with it because it gave me the discipline, it gave me the structure and the balance that I did not have in my life. Discipline, structure, and balance. And when people walk into a room with no shoes on and they bow into the room and they all shake hands strongly, look each other in the eye, bow, and you line up really strongly And there's this level of self-mastery, you might put it, that became like an addiction. So I immediately fell in love with this new discipline, which I did not have. And I was very excited about looking around at what I could become and what, I was looking inside of my own soul and thinking I could be a black belt one day. I could actually do this. And, since then I'm now a 2nd degree black belt and I'm looking at 3rd degree now, been practicing that. But the moving meditation side of it, what you're asking there, Ash, is every single move that you do is connected with your breath. Every stance is part of your breath. Every move you breathe in, you breathe out. So it's like you are connected with the universe and everything that's in it, but you don't need anything else other than what you have. You are it. You are your universe. So you become the master of yourself through the power of your own physicality and through the power of your breath. You become the master. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, mate, actually answered my question and more. So it was that was great. Thank you for that.
And I, for anyone that doesn't do it or wants to know more about it, I'm happy to have a conversation with you about it. But it's helped save my life. They say when the student is ready, the master will appear. And I was ready at that point in my life. And, and I've got a great instructor who's taught me many, many things, many principles and philosophies, not only in martial arts, but life. But the thing is with the martial arts that I learned is that you can carry that stuff throughout every single thing that's in your life. The relationships with your family, your partner, your children, how you put your shoes on and how you stand up straight has everything to do with what we practice in karate. Take the Karate Kid movie, for example. There is so much good stuff in there that they're trying to teach us. My son and I watched the other night, the Karate Kid 2, because I'm always forever trying to get him to watch it. It's 1980s, but it's fabulous. And Mr. Miyagi, he says, Daniel-san, with no breath, there is no life. And he just breathes in like this, and he shows him without the breath, there is no life. And it's, everyone has the power within them to overcome the addiction or the suffering or the pain that you're feeling. Us 3 guys that are here having a chat so we can empower other people to lean in and grab something from our conversations is what's really going to set us apart, and it's what's going to help them. I know it's 8 o'clock at night. I've been up since 5:30 working. I could be watching Netflix, sucking down beers, having a bong, whatever. But my point is, we're here to help you. And I really appreciate people who are going to jump on and listen to us, because I think that what we have and the experiences that we've shared together is going to help the guys that are listening.
Ash, what about you with boxing? How's it helped you?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Wayne. Mate, it's literally saved my life. From where I was going to what I was doing to who I was hanging around, it has saved my life completely. It has made me the person who I am, the man I am today. And like Mitch says as well, with his master, his coach, his mentor, not only are you learning boxing skills, but you're learning a lot about yourself, and you're learning about your character and character building, the discipline, the self-respect, the respect for others. It all comes apart because it all flows and it all is massive. So when you're sitting there and you got nothing left in the tank and you got to keep pushing, you really look at yourself and go, what have I got? What am I doing here? But you're slowly building this engine of yours. So then you might have a fight or might have a goal in mind to spar or something like that. Then that is your goal, like we were saying before. So then you stop maybe hanging around this person or that person, you start eating healthier to get this goal and to get this vision and to do well. So, mate, honestly, I think boxing, like Mitch will agree with his karate, it's going to be with us for the rest of our lives, and we're really fortunate to have it. I'm really lucky to have it to myself. The people that I meet all around the boxing community and how they help you is just unbelievable. So boxing, moving, meditation, like Mitch said, the karate, it really does help. Really does. I believe so. It really helps you as a person and shows you core values on what you want to do and who you want to become and who you want to inspire to, because you're looking at that mirror and the eyes looking back at you. That's the person who you are. That's the person who has to do the work. That can't just say, nah, it's all right. I'll go over to these guys and I'll smoke a bit of ice with them or whatever it is. It puts responsibility and accountability into your court. And when that stuff when you are doing all that stuff, it really opens the ballpark up. So that's my view on my boxing.
Sure. I just want to throw something in. One of the things, I think might have been the event that we did at the gym that time, but Mitch had some people at the back and you're putting them in the ice bath, and there was a young girl there she was terrified. I think she was throwing up the night before. I can't remember her name, but she was really stressed. And I kept hearing Mitch saying, control your breath, control your life. And it was just words in my head. Anyway, I saw this girl get in. 2 minutes later, an empowered woman got out. It was so dramatic, the change by controlling her breath, getting in that ice bath. So I've seen how powerful that is. Now, I remember that with Ash, that time that you were when you went up north for the fight and everyone agreed that it had been robbed, and just the way, you manned up and owned that, because that could have been devastating. So I've seen the things that we're talking about, I've actually seen you guys do. But the big one with addictions and all changes, we've got to go within. We've got to go in and find those inner demons, those inner beasts that those lies and deceptions that we believe about ourselves or we're telling ourselves, and just got to undo them and just put some new stories in there, some new, more empowered ones. Whether you believe you can or you can't, you are correct. As Henry Ford said, it's the thinking that makes it so. So, you can keep calling yourself an alcoholic, or you can start changing it, or drug addict, or food, or sex, whatever it is that you're giving your power away to try and feel good about yourself. Mate, just go straight to feel good about yourself. It's a lot easier. I'll throw it back over to you guys.
Yeah, I think the final words that we want to say here is, just that exactly, Wayne. Positive self-talk. If you're looking in the mirror and you're saying, "Oh, you're fucking, you're a loser, you're useless, you're good for nothing," that's exactly what you're going to be. But if you're looking in the mirror and saying, "I am beautiful, I am loved, I'm loving," even if you're not willing to admit it, is what I like to add, thanks to Wayne, on the end of things, if I don't believe it about myself. Because you're just bullshitting yourself. If you say, "I am beautiful," and you don't believe it, well, then it's going to be ridiculous to say. But if you say, "I am beautiful," even if I'm not willing to admit it, well, that's when it will tell the subconscious part of your brain. And that's when the magic happens. Positive self-talk. But just the last words there on this brilliant conversation on I'm an addict. A fabulous thing that we need to do is get in the habit of completing small daily disciplines. So small habits each and every single day. And that means if you set your alarm for 5 a.m., you get up at 5 a.m. You don't hit snooze, you jump straight out of bed. Okay? The next thing you could do if you're feeling tired is that you could jump straight into a cold shower. And it's getting awfully cold at the moment. The cold shower this morning was fucking freezing. So jump into a cold shower. That will stimulate you for 4 to 6 hours. Don't go straight for the coffee. That's dehydration straight off the cuff. After your cold shower, have the discipline to make your bed. Okay, so get up, make your bed, make it as good as you can. Because if everything fails throughout the day, you come home to a made bed, it feels good. Also, after you make your bed, drink water. Okay, at least 400 mils, okay, in the morning. Then, after you do that, go for a walk. Barefoot if you can. It's getting a bit nippy, okay? Go for a walk, go out into nature. Go to a park or sit near the plants if you're living in thick suburbia or concrete jungle. Be near nature, listen for the birds. The Bob Marley song, The Three Little Birds, they are there every morning, okay? When you go for your walk, when you're out there, sit down somewhere, find somewhere just to sit down for 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes out for yourself. Do some breath work, okay? Just slowly breathe in for 7 seconds, hold it for 7, and breathe out for the count of 7. Do that for about 5 minutes. You'll feel a shift, okay? And through the process of doing that, find 3 things to be grateful for, okay? One could be, I'm so grateful I didn't shit the bed last night, okay? Or I'm so grateful that I have a home. I'm so grateful that I have water. Very, very basic. Keep it simple, okay, until you start building up a very good habit. And if you're feeling gutsy or ballsy enough, go for a jog or do some sort of exercise. Okay, it's going to release all sorts of wonderful chemicals and feelings of emotions throughout your body, making you feel good. That's how you win the day. All you have to do is execute on that every day. That's not a big ask. Okay, you only got to hit 4 of those things out of that number of things that we mentioned, and you will win the day. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Always is an absolute pleasure for you guys. Some really great topics tonight. We hit some really good notes. So if anyone's listening and want to reach out, there's all 3 of us. We're more than happy to do so.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, boys. That was fun as always.
Awesome.
Just
So
wondering,
if you'd like to follow us on YouTube, The Art of Resilience, we're on the podcast, we're on Spotify, and Wayne Ellis, Kissing the Black Dog, and Ash Timmins Boxer on Instagram. Okay, guys, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Hope you have a wonderful week, wherever you're tuning in from.